This is a remake of a video I did earlier in the year. I got some good feedback from somebody that the video was hard to follow. So I just wanted to remake this so it would be more clear exactly what it was that I was trying to show, the problem or the limitation we're trying to address, and just to better explain the workaround that I came up with. So first I'm going to show you how you can take two parameters from different pages and place them on the same page by using the mod matrix. Mostly going to be focusing on filter and delay, but you can apply the same idea to over 60 different parameters. So starting with the filter page, we have the base filter frequency, the envelope amount, the attack time, decay time, sustain level, release time, resonance, and then another parameter we'll ignore because it's just for the keyboard tracking. Then just going to play around with the filter a little bit. Just changing everything back to around where I had it set at the beginning here. This row has our effects parameters. So we have a feedback frequency, the level of the feedback, a grunge setting, which is either on or off. Then you have 8 delay parameters split across 2 different pages. So delay time 1, level 1, feedback 1, feedback 2. Then you have to press shift in order to get to delay time 2, level 2, then the time for delay 3, level of 3. Then you have a distortion, which can also be used as a noise gate. Just going to start by bringing in delay 2, then playing around with some other parameters. The problem is that all of our filter settings and all of our effects settings are on different pages or different rows. So if you wanted to turn up delay 1, that's one page. Then you have to go to the shift page for delay 2 or delay 3. If you want to adjust the feedback, you have to go back to the first delay page. At any point, if you want to adjust the filter settings, you have to go to the filter row, and there's 2 pages for the filter. So it would appear that unless you're using some type of external MIDI controller, you could never adjust the parameters from 2 separate rows or even 2 separate pages at the same time, because trying to quickly press the button between different pages and adjust them in real time is just not a viable strategy. So I'm going to just reload the patch, and I'll show you what I came up with. Now go to one of your sequencer tracks, and it could be any number of steps, but the important part is that you set each step to a value of 100. Then we're going to go to row 4, and underneath the settings for the VCA, the output pan, and the volume, you have mod slot 2 and mod slot 3 next to each other on the same shift page. Just showing a little bit of a closer up picture here so you can hopefully better see what I'm talking about. This is what we're going to use. So you could take any 2 of the up to 68, I think, different parameters that are available modulation destinations, and you could place them in one of these 2 locations. For both of the mod slots, we're going to set the source as sequencer 4, which we just filled with values of 100. The first parameter I want to control is filter envelope. So go to the destination and scroll all the way till you get to E1L, which is envelope 1 level for the filter envelope. And for the second parameter, I want to control the delay level. So scroll till we get to DA2, delay amount 2. Then just showing that one more time and showing also that you're not being tricked, that the delay isn't already up, but turning the feedback up a little bit. I never adjust both parameters at the same time, and I'll come back to that later, but as you can see, it clearly works. Now, one way I think this would be cool to use will be to bring in a second delay line. So I'm going to turn up the level for delay 2 and then change the routing for mod slot 3. Where it was routed to delay amount 2 before, I'll change it to delay amount 1, then just double checking and turning down my modulation amount before I show you this. Now, if the goal is to be able to adjust the filter envelope level and one of your delay parameters, I want to show you a different route, just reloading the patch. So you can actually skip the step of going to a sequencer track and setting however many number of steps to a value of 100, and then the last step to reset, and then having to go to the mod slot and setting sequencer 4 as the source, and then going to the destination and scrolling to filter or filter split, filter resonance, or continuing to scroll all the way till you get to filter envelope level. So you can actually use mod slot 4. And here you have one mod slot on the same page as delay time 2, delay level 2, delay time 3, delay level 3. So to move the control for filter envelope level into this location of mod slot 4 without having to use the sequencer track or any other steps in the middle, it's actually pretty simple. You just go to mod slot 4 and for the source, select filter envelope, and for the destination, you select filter. You route the filter envelope to the filter, even though it's already routed to the filter by default. Then I just show you that that also works and bring in delay 2. This page or grouping of parameters is somewhere I like to hang out a lot because in my own patches, I like to use the digital oscillator, so it's the very last source in the list of sources, oscillator 4, oscillator 3, and I like to use these to modulate the delay time. And you can get some pretty crazy sounds, but it doesn't always work, and it doesn't really work well in this patch, but showing you just for the purpose of demonstration. That's without any modulation, and this is what it sounds like with a modulation amount of 1. then changing the source to oscillator 3. So that is something that I like to use often and will definitely be revisiting in another video. I want to go back to the filter envelope and show one more thing. So the filter envelope has a max envelope amount of 99, which made me wonder if there was some scaling involved, because when you go to the VCA envelope, it goes up to 100. So when you have the filter envelope set to 99, what is it actually doing? And I'm going to test that here by closing the filter all the way and leaving the envelope amount set to 99. Then, like I showed earlier in this video, I'm going to go to one of our 4 mod slots, then select filter envelope as the source, and then route that to the filter, and then turn it up to the max amount of 99 here, and you can hear what that does. Then turning that off so you can hear one more time without. It's hard to draw a definitive conclusion from this example, but I'll just show you one more time with, because it's clearly doing something. It definitely sounds brighter to me, but I can't tell, is it actually opening the filter more, or is it just affecting the filter envelope, like the decay or sustain? And I think to really know, you would have to look at some type of frequency or spectrum analyzer. So I wanted to show that not only can you move that control for filter envelope amount, but also why you might want to do that. So if you were to put it at mod slot 1, that will put you on the same page as some other controls for the filter, like your filter split or the high pass filter. If you move it to mod slot 4, now you would be on the same page as your settings for delay 2, delay 3, or the distortion effect. Or you could put it at either mod slot 2 or mod slot 3, in which you could choose and place a different parameter or control of your choice out of over 60 different options. And lastly, maybe you want to make some type of sound where the filter goes from all the way open to all the way closed, and it's possible that just having a envelope amount of 99 doesn't actually open the filter all the way. So now I want to go back to that first idea of using a sequencer track and whatever associated modulation with it, and use it for a different application and a workaround for a different problem. So now I'm going to show you how you could apply it to drones. Now I think that the evolver is great for drone sounds, but I never really used them in videos. And this might sound dumb or simple, but the problem to me is, how do you get the video and the audio to be synchronized? So I'm going to go down to edit row 7, and there's on the 7th encoder, there's a parameter called trigger select, and this controls how the envelopes are triggered. If you set it to MID, short for MIDI, the envelopes won't trigger from the sequencer. So when I press play, there's no sound. And then I go change it back to all to show that it's the same patch. Just changing it back to MIDI, then going and raising the filter cutoff a little bit so it's not so low without the filter envelope. Then, just like I showed you earlier, go down to sequencer 4, set up a 1-step sequence with a value of 100. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom row, which has the sequencer destinations, and setting it to the VCA. So now when I press start, it will start droning, and it'll be easier to line up the audio and video. Just bear with me for a second, because this next clip might be a little bit hard to follow. So if you have the sequencer controlling the VCA like this, whenever you press start, your sound will begin to play, but when you press stop, the sound continues playing or sustaining because it only stops the sequencer and it's still holding that value of 100, which is keeping the VCA open. So I wanted to start it, and whatever step it landed on when I pressed stop that first time, to stop it again on that same step multiple times in a row each time the sequencer went around again. So after I made that initial discovery that you could synchronize your drone to the start button, and then later realizing that pressing stop just stops the sequencer, so you could kind of advance and then stop the sequencer, that gave me an idea on how you could actually use this. And I got to be honest, I haven't done this in any of my patches yet. This is actually something I only discovered or thought of after I sat down and started making this video. So in a second, I'm going to go to another sequencer track and put some values in there and assign it to all oscillator frequency. And the idea was that you could kind of advance it and stop it on one chord, and then advance it again and stop on a different chord. And I got to be honest, it's going to sound a little rough, but hopefully you get the idea. So clearly I did not pick the right values for the sequencer there, and I debated on cutting that entire part out of the video, but I wanted to show it because I really think there's some potential there for this to be used in not only a way that actually sounds good, but also in a way that's predictable and repeatable. That's why I showed me starting and stopping the sequencer on the same step, because in theory, if you were to put better numbers there in your sequencer, you could stop it on a particular chord. So if you'll recall from my previous video, I talked about the way that values are distributed or transmitted is not always the same between the different features or functions on the evolver, and I just want to apply that to the VCA now. So in this example, we had a sequencer with the max value of 100, and it's controlling the VCA, and that produces a certain volume. And I just want to show you that it's not the same as just going to our VCA and turning the VCA amount up to 100. To me, that's a pretty clear difference in volume, and our sequencer with the max value of 100 and routed to the VCA is not as loud as when you would just go to the VCA and turn the VCA level up to 100. So what I do next is go to the mod matrix and route that same sequencer, which was sequencer 4, to the VCA and turn that up to the max amount. So now you would have to sacrifice another one of your mod slots, but it gives you the full volume maybe. So I think that's something that's cool to know, and just to follow up on how sometimes the way that values are transmitted is not always the same. And finally, I just wanted to show and explain why that first trick I showed you only works with the Evolver desktop, and it does not work with the Mono Evolver keyboard or the Poly Evolver keyboard. So I'm just showing a picture of the Evolver keyboard right now. I actually have my own Evolver keyboard. I think I showed it in my last video, but I haven't actually used it or even turned it on yet. And I have a feeling when I finally do turn it on, it will still be loaded with the factory presets. But it comes down to the fact that the Evolver keyboards are not truly knob per function. And similar to how on the desktop you have to press a button to get to certain edit pages, you have to do a similar thing on the Evolver keyboard. And also the way that the parameters are laid out is different. So this actually presents an opportunity to be able to do certain things with the desktop that you can't do with the Evolver keyboard without using an external MIDI controller. And I've never seen anybody ever mention it before. Usually when people on forums or wherever they talk about the desktop or they make their case for the desktop, it's focused around two things: the fact that it's cheaper and that it's also more compact. But I believe I'm the first person to ever point out, oh, by the way, there's also things that you can do with the desktop that you can't do with the Mono Evolver or the Poly Evolver keyboard. So in a second, you're going to see my little cursor move around to point out some of these things. It might be kind of small, but I'm just going to start with the delay. So right here you have your buttons for delay, and you have to press a button to get to each one: delay 1, delay 2, delay 3. So while you have extra knobs, for delay time, delay level, feedback 1, feedback 2, you still have to press a button to get to each delay line. And the same thing applies to the modulation slots that I'm showing here. You have to press a button to get between mod slot 1, mod slot 2, mod slot 3, mod slot 4. Also to the LFOs. Each LFO is its own button. And lastly to the oscillators as well. So while you get more knobs for the various parameters of the oscillators, like your FM, shape, frequency, etc., you never have oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 on the same page. You never have LFO 1 and LFO 2 on the same page. You never have mod slot 2 and mod slot 3 on the same page. And that's what this whole tutorial was built around, just exploiting the fact that you have mod slot 2 and mod slot 3 on the same page, and you can place any two parameters out of the available destinations in those two locations. So even just on a simple level, like bypassing this whole trick or workaround on the desktop, you could adjust the level of two oscillators at the same time, which is something that you cannot do on the keyboard without using something like the mod wheel or aftertouch, which is really kind of a moot point because you could do the same thing on the desktop. I skipped some of them a second ago, so just for the sake of being thorough and because I really want to give y'all accurate information, I'm going to go through and list all the groupings of parameters that you have on the Evolver desktop that you don't have on the Evolver keyboard. So starting with the top row, you have oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 on the same page or the same row, which would contain the settings for oscillator frequency, the shape or the pulse width, and the level. So on the Evolver keyboard, each of your 4 different oscillators is a different button. So if you wanted to adjust the level for your analog oscillators, you would have to press the button for oscillator 1 and turn up the level, and then press the button for oscillator 2 and turn up the level. This same thing would apply to the digital oscillators. So you have on the desktop, you have oscillator 3 and oscillator 4 on the same page or the same row, which would have your settings for frequency, shape, and level. Then if you go to the shift page, you have the FM for oscillator 3 and 4, and there's FM between 3 and 4 and FM between 4 and 3. Also ring mod between 3 and 4 and ring mod between 4 and 3. So you have all 4 of those on the same page or same row on the Evolver desktop, while on the keyboard you would have to press the button for oscillator 3 and adjust, say, the ring mod, then press the button for oscillator 4 and adjust the ring mod again. And I could definitely see a scenario where if you are using the ring mod in your patch or sequence, you would want to be able to maybe play with both of them without having to do that. Then going down under the VCA, you have mod slot 2 and mod slot 3 on the same page or row on the Evolver desktop. You don't have that on the Evolver keyboard because each of your 4 different modulation slots are their own button. So you never have 2 together active on the same page at the same time. And just want to be like really clear, it's like kind of implied, or you would know if you played around with an Evolver before, but you only ever have one page active at a time. That's why I came up with this whole workaround, because it's like, oh, you can never adjust the filter and delay at the same time. Then going down again, you have LFO1 and LFO2 on the same page on the Evolver desktop, and you don't have that on the Evolver keyboard. Also LFO3 and LFO4 on the same page. And lastly, this was the one I was actually unsure about, and just working from a picture I couldn't tell, so I had to dig my own Evolver out of a box and show you right now. The sequencer. So on the Evolver desktop, on the bottom row, you have the destinations for your 4 different sequencer tracks all on the same page, and it appears on the Evolver desktop. I have to say that because, again, I haven't actually used it yet, but I do know how to read, and I can infer just from looking at it that you have to press the button for sequencer. There's a button for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's a knob that has destination written on it, and it's right next to the knobs that control the sequencer. So I'm assuming that you have to press the button for 1 and then turn that to assign the destination, or press the button for 2 and assign the destination. So one of the things I've mentioned, and I think I showed a couple examples so far on my channel, is that you can mute individual sequencer tracks. And while you could still apply that idea to the Evolver keyboard, you couldn't really use it in its full potential like you could on the Evolver desktop, because on the Evolver desktop you have all 4 of your sequencer destinations basically, I don't want to say active, but they're all on the same page, so you could adjust them more quickly than having to press a button to go back and forth between the different pages. So now that I know that, I'm going to flesh that out a little bit and show you guys how to mute individual sequencer tracks, because I know I mentioned it, and I think I showed at least like 1 or 2 examples, but I'm pretty sure in my original video I said there was at least 10 different ways you could do that. So I'll go through and show you some more of them and apply it to, I guess, a comparison between the Evolver desktop and the Evolver keyboard. So hopefully that clears everything up, and you guys see exactly what it was that I was trying to show in the original tutorial. And I'm going to make one more video on this week to show controlling multiple parameters at once. And then later on, I'm going to show you how you could apply the same idea to sequencing.